This forgotten weapon does insane damage. This cheap item buffs your damage by a lot, and this method allows you to completely cheese Voidglooms. In this video, I'm going to be covering some really OP items that you should be using. First, we've got the aspect of the dragons, dropped from, you guessed it, gambling. Now on its own, the AOTD is an okayish early game weapon that gets quickly outclassed by things like the Livid Dagger, but combined with an item called the Dragon Fuse Glove, which can be crafted by using 4 ritual residue that can be obtained by sacrificing your dragon armor, 72 might shell obtained by breaking shiny blocks in the end, 48 absolute ender pearls obtained by beating up black people. Now this item adds 35 damage and 50 strength to the AOTD, and stats wise with this buff, the AOTD becomes better than the much more expensive Bone Reaper. Also there's a visual bug with the glove. Even if you put it on, the damage numbers will not change, but you don't need to worry because the damage will still increase once you use it. But if you want even more damage and you've got the cash, you can get a knee drag pet. And I know it throws budget straight out of the window, but think about it. If you're a high-level mid-game player and have a drag pet, you can get extra 50 damage and 30 strength, making this weapon actually comparable to the Shadow Fury. According to this damage calculator, with a maxed AOTD, I deal 197k damage, but with the Shadow Fury, I deal almost 207k damage, making the Shadow Fury just slightly better than the AOTD. Also, there's a small issue I faced while testing this. The value doesn't quite add up. Both the AOTD and Shadow Fury should have had the same base damage value of 310, meaning the value should have stayed the same, granted they had the same upgrades, but it did not. The Shadow Fury had 374 damage, but the AOTD only had 362.5, meaning it's probably bugged at the moment. Also, theory will only take you so far, as when I tested them on Hub 1 zombies, it showed a massive difference, and the difference got even bigger inside of dungeons. But the AOTD is still a decent weapon for early game if you don't count the drag pet. So if you can't afford a Shadow Fury, I recommend getting an AOTD and Dragon Fuse gloves. Next, we've got a new insane Voidgloom Cheese strat. It's actually quite simple. All you need to get is a hype. Keep watching, I'll teach you guys another method that will cost a lot less. But basically, you spawn your boss, stand here, and then spam. Now there were a few issues for me. First, finding the area was difficult, so I recommend using any mod like Skytills that allows you to add waypoints, and then put your waypoint on exactly this location. The coords are here, and then you can easily aim there with the aspect of the Void's ability. And since you'll be depending on mana a lot, I recommend getting some cheap F3 tank zombies, as they can easily survive the full brunt of the Voidgloom's offense, cost literally nothing to spawn, and are really easy to farm. Also just get a summoning ring, cause farming with a Reaper Scythe is really annoying. The next issue I had was I kept dying to the floating head things and beacons. To prevent that, I recommend using a mithril coat for beacons and keeping an ornate zombie sword and a wand of atonement to heal for the flying heads. And the final issue I ran into was I kept running out of mana. For that, I recommend using a power orb, preferably an overflux or higher. You could even add a mana steal soul whip. And for the armor, I recommend mana pool and breeze or mana regen aurora. Now how this strat works is wear full storm or aurora armor, then farm some endermen, then you need to TP to the cheese location using your AOTV, then spawn the boss close to the cheese location, preferably within a few block radius from it, then place your overflux. Then you need to spawn your tank zombies, and once its phase is over, you need to spam your hype until the laser phase. And once it is out of the laser phase, just spam your hype. Now once the boss gets to the beacons phase, swap out your chest plate for a mithril coat. To make this easier, you can place the armor in your inventory and use the slot number to quickly swap armor pieces. Also, if you want to, you can even add wisdom 5 and loving on your coat. Now once you've done that, you can just spam your hype during damage and spawn the mobs during the hits phase. Just make sure you use your ornate zombie sword if you get low. This is also a decent way to get carried if the other person uses the strat I'm gonna talk about next. Next, we've got the Midas staff. Now, it's not cheap, as you can only get it a few times every year from Mayor Scorpius. And to use it at full potential, you need to pay at least 100 million coins. And you need to add the Midas jewel. And right now in the auction house, 100 million Midas staffs go for up to 300 million coins. But honestly, it's kinda insane. Even at base tier, it can do a whopping 3.5 million damage with almost base tier ancient crimson, which might not sound like a lot. But remember, this is crimson we're talking about. And the thing about crimson armor is that it's got an ability that allows you to do a swipe hit that deals way more damage. So combined with the swipe hit, the Midas staff allows one to deal over 11 million damage per hit. Now that's just with basic crimson. Let's say you have full wisdom 5 necrotic crimson, like this guy called R Analysis does. You can literally deal over 37 million damage with basically no talismans. You'll still need a drag pet though. But that's not all. You can also combine this setup with some extra talismans and the Endstone sword and casually deal over 100 million damage. Shout out to R Analysis for this method. But basically what you do is get 10 kills on your crimson armor and then use your Endstone sword, which should give you a decent damage boost. Then use your Midas staff and yeah, you're done. Now there are 3 major issues here. First, you've got the survivability issue. Now that's only a problem during the hits phase, but the best way to prevent dying is to use multiple summons, and to do that you need to use a Reaper Scythe and quick swap to a Reaper Mask, which should allow you to spawn 5 F3 tank zombies. Now the next issue is that you can't really gain crimson armor stacks while fighting the T4 Voidgloom, or can you? The thing about the end dimension is that if you use ender pearls, it spawns weak endermen that you can easily kill to gain crimson armor stacks. Next, and probably the biggest issue, is the damage and mana issue. For that you need to do a few things, like place an overflux and fill up your mana before the boss fight starts, use crimson pieces with mana pool and mana regen, use a level 100 legendary E-Drag pet, and with all of this you should be able to deal over 100 million damage per hit. Also, I'm gonna be doing a massive 500 million giveaway at 30k subs. So if you like my content and wanna win some coins, I recommend subbing. If you watch the video, thank you for watching more videos like this. Click the button left. If you want to watch more content, click the button right. If you want to subscribe to the channel, member, in the Discord, and don't forget to comment and read all comments.